Fox News calling reports that 5-year-old Liam Conejo Ramos was detained by federal authorities totally false. Trump saying this as 5-year-old Liam is being held in Texas tonight, more than 1,000 miles from his home in Minnesota. A federal judge today moving to block a possible deportation of Liam and his father. But Liam was taken into federal custody along with his father a week ago today. ICE agents taking Liam just steps from his home while his mother was inside. Out front now, Jason Kuhlman. He is the principal at 5-year-old Liam Conejo Ramos' school. Jason, I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me. Obviously, we spoke a week ago, and now here we are. He's still in detention. President Trump tonight calling reports about his detention, though, totally false. Of course, as I pointed out, Liam does remain in government custody in Texas as we speak. What do you say to this?
Wow. I don't know what to say to that. I think it's false. I think he was detained. He was picked up without an order of deportation, even though there was an active case happening for asylum.
So a judge tonight is blocking, I understand, Liam's possible deportation to another country, which obviously could be hugely significant. But how significant do you think that news really is in terms of him coming home?
I think it's a first step. We were very excited when we heard that. I think it's excited for all of our children who are detained, but for us, it's a huge win.
So when we spoke last week, you were with Liam's mother.
Urging ICE and Customs and Border Protection to, quote, reassess their current tactics. Congressman Lawler writes today in the New York Times, quote, we must be a nation of laws, but also one that offers dignity and compassion to those seeking to pursue their American dream. Honestly, I could barely read it. It's laughable. Mike Lawler is in New York 17, probably possibly one of the most competitive district in the country this upcoming November. So I just...
Can I say though, Simone?
Do something as an elected official.
I understand that instinct, but I reached out to some of the immigration advocates that I trust most, and one of them called this a game changer, and they directed me to this specific part of the piece that Mike Lawler wrote. Let's bring it up on the screen. It is the part about legalization. Along with building on Mr. Trump's border policies, a realistic plan would provide a path to legal status, not citizenship, for long-term illegal immigrants without criminal records. This path would be rigorous and fair, and it would aim to keep families together. Fair means those who benefit, who would face mandatory work requirements, forgo public assistance, and pay fines and any back taxes they might owe. Michael, to me, that is given 2006. It's given 2013. We have seen this before. To Simone's point, I am on board with what it is that is motivating it. And at the same time, it is a wild pivot from mass deportations as the frame that the Republican Party has gotten behind.
Well, look, we have heard this before. We've been in this room before, Republican Congress members. We've had a bite at that immigration apple. We've been on the tip of the spear in our leadership when we had the White House, the House, and the Senate to do something about it. And every time we barfed it up. We didn't take it seriously, and I suspect they still don't. They still don't. This is one member of Congress. This wasn't written with a lot of other names underneath it. He wasn't standing in front of a bank of microphones with a gaggle of Republican Congress members standing around him. That's the moment the country needs on this.
He didn't even say it in Congress.
He didn't say it. He could have gone to the House floor. He could have said it from the well. He could have looked at the speaker and directly addressed the question to the chair. But, so I get the performative nature of it. And I don't want to look, this congressman be very serious. And maybe this is the first salvo to get others on board. But we've seen that shot before. And in most fashions, in most ways, it just lands as a dud.
I've been looking down because I'm like, okay, what has Lawler, has he co-sponsored any legislation that would have talked about a pathway to citizenship? And he has actually been in opposition to broad immigration reform. He has not proposed comprehensive immigration reform that includes pathway to citizenship, permanent protections for dreamers, or broad legalization frameworks. And so I
Maybe
have
he's on board.
Well, then he needs to say it in Congress. I think that we're in a moment where people are trying to get brownie points because they're trying to win an election. And voters, be vigilant. Do not allow yourselves to be lulled to sleep by one nice op-ed in the New York Times.
Where they've been tells you where they are.
Well, next on a special...
Trump just found out he's been impeached, and his reaction? Pure chaos. But here's the thing nobody's talking about. This isn't just about Trump. This is about every single unqualified puppet he put in power coming back to haunt him. And what happened in the last few hours changes everything we thought we knew about how this administration operates. Because when you build your entire cabinet on loyalty instead of competence, when you surround yourself with people who exist only because you allow them to exist, eventually that house of cards collapses. And it's collapsing right now in real time. Let's get one thing straight right from the start. This impeachment vote that just happened, if you've been paying attention to the pattern, it's the inevitable result of what happens when you construct an administration not on merit, not on qualification, not on expertise, but purely on the premise of control and subservience. Trump didn't just make a few bad hiring decisions. That would be forgivable. That would be human error. No, what Trump did was intentional. He deliberately sought out people who had no business being in the positions they were placed in because their lack of qualifications served a purpose. It created a dynamic where these cabinet members, these department heads, these people running critical aspects of our government knew deep down that they weren't there because they earned it. They were there because Trump wanted them there. And that knowledge, that understanding that their entire position depended solely on Trump's whim was supposed to keep them in line. It was supposed to make them obedient. But here's what Trump didn't account for. When you fill your administration with people who are fundamentally unqualified, you're not just creating loyal servants. You're creating liabilities. You're creating vulnerabilities. You're creating a situation where every single decision they make can be questioned, can be challenged, can be used as evidence of incompetence or corruption or both. And that's exactly what we're seeing play out right now with this impeachment vote. The chickens have come home to roost. Now let's contrast this with Trump's first term, because the difference is critical to understanding why this impeachment is different from anything we've seen before. In his first administration, Trump did something he would later come to regret. He picked people who actually had credentials. Not all of them, but enough of them. People who had resumes that looked impressive on paper. People who had experience in government, in military, in business, at levels that suggested competence. And you know what happened? Those people cause him problems, constantly. Because when you hire someone who actually knows what they're doing, someone who has expertise in their field, someone who has a reputation to protect beyond just being Trump's loyalist, they develop something dangerous from Trump's perspective. They develop a backbone. They develop the ability to say no. They develop the confidence to push back and say, actually, Mr. President, that's not how this works. That's not legal. That's not advisable. That's not going to achieve what you want it to achieve. And Trump hated that. He absolutely despised being told he was wrong by people who knew better than him. So what did he do? He fired them, one after another, or they quit. They walked away because they couldn't stomach what Trump was asking them to do, or they saw the writing on the wall that their expertise wasn't valued, that their advice wasn't wanted, that they were just supposed to be yes men in fancy suits with impressive titles. By the end of Trump's first term, his cabinet looked like a revolving door. People were gone. The adults in the room, as they were often called, had left the building. And a lot of that exodus happened around January 6th, because that was the moment when even the semi-qualified people realized they couldn't defend what was happening anymore. So Trump learned a lesson from that first term. But it wasn't the lesson most people would learn. Most people would think, okay, I need to hire better people. I need to find people who are both loyal to me and good at their jobs. Trump learned the opposite lesson. He learned that qualification equals independence. He learned that expertise equals the ability to resist. He learned that if someone is actually good at what they do, they won't need him as much as he needs them to need him. And that's intolerable to someone like Trump. So this time around, he went in the complete opposite direction. He filled his cabinet with people whose only qualification is their loyalty to him. People who have no business running the departments they're running. People who don't understand the complexities of the jobs they've been given. People who will do whatever Trump tells them to do without question because they know they have no other currency. Their entire value, their entire reason for being in that position is Trump's favor, nothing else. And that's exactly what Trump wanted. He wanted a cabinet that functioned as extensions of himself, rather than as independent operators with their own authority and expertise.